Hello, everybody. My name is Nadine Alameh, and I'm the CEO and president of the Open Geospatial Consortium, OGC, which I'll tell you a little bit more about in a minute. But I'm very excited to be here to talk to you about the changing nature of proximity in the 21st century, and how that could be understood through the lens of digital physical convergence. So, why am I here? Two reasons. I'm showing my slide. So here's why I'm here. Reason number one, these two people. These two people are my kids, two boys, ages 11 and 15. And this is on a weekend afternoon. And when I said, let's do something, guys, and they said, but we're hanging out with our friends, Mom. And I'm like, but your friends are not here. And they're like, no, we're all avatars in some game. And you can see they're each playing a different game. And they have their headsets and all of that. And don't judge me. I don't know. I think this is why we're here, right? We're talking about the future of proximity of the next generation. But these digital natives, right? My kids and your kids are defying our concept, I think, of time and space, how they interact with each other, how they feel that they are, with somebody, with other people, in time and in space. So keep that in mind, I think, because these guys are not just the 21st century, but also beyond. So that's one. The second reason I'm here is, as I mentioned, so I'm the CEO of the Open Geospatial Consortium. Geospatial, so that's, agree on what geospatial is, just in case you're not familiar, because it impacts how we see space and time. So geospatial to us, geospatial geeks, is everything. So you use geospatial when you go from one place to the next, to any map anywhere in the world. It's how the army gets data to the soldiers. It's how the hikers get their data in the mountains. It's your weather data is geospatial. It's all the sensor data is geospatial. What else is geospatial? Your building data, your underground infrastructure data, your roads, your indoor data, your building information, right? Inside, outside is all geospatial. All the data, the satellite imagery that everybody talks about these days and sees on the news, it's all geospatial. In this case, just a snippet from, what is it, NASA, European Space Agency, the Japanese Space Agency, a gazillion, commercial companies out there producing Earth observation, remotely sensed geospatial data. Climate, I'm sure you've heard of climate change, climate resilience, climate adaptation, call it whatever you want to call it. All that data about the Earth, about the environment, is all geospatial. So I hope you can start to see where I'm coming from when I talk about changing proximity and this digital physical convergence of space and time. It's because people like me, geospatial, we believe that everything happens in space and time, right? So what we do in OGC is we are trying to make this geospatial information easily usable by anybody. So you don't have to be a geek like me. Anybody, we want anybody to be able to use the satellite imagery, the weather information, the sensors from the cars to build, applications and innovations and help. Keep that in mind as well. So that's what we're trying to do. And I'm not going to bore you with the details. We have standards, best practices, etc. But the best part about this is when I say we're actually a whole consortium of organizations globally. I'm gonna pick some of their examples actually to convey 5 points overall. And I think picture, what is it, worth 1,000 words, still valid in the 21st century and beyond. So let me start with something here, okay? So here's one example. So I'm gonna be using examples from the OGC members. In this case, an example about geospatial information, extended reality for urban planning. And I'm going to start with this concept of the digital twin of a city, right? This model, in this case, of urban planning and construction that can be used for future sustainable development. And we combine all the data that we have in this case. What is it? The city of Boston. And look at this. Imagine having your headset on, right? And you want to see different urban planning scenarios. In this case, they think they want to change the zoning of an entire area. You put your headset, you can create new buildings. This is you're combining the real information with future information, time and space. In this case, the building information. So this is not just a video game. It's not my kids' video game, right? This is the real building with all the characteristics, the sun, the environment, even the trees, right? This is when we talk about digital twin, very, very powerful. And this is how, in this case, we're extending the reality. So keep that in mind, right? I'm starting with this concept of digital twin and extending our reality. So you combine the real data with some, variation of that data, imaginary, real, futuristic, practical, doesn't matter. Combining, bridging, linking. So here's another example. This is an example from another OGC member, Presages. So they're Canadian. And in this case, we're starting with the same digital twin. In this case, they're building the digital twin from Earth observation and using artificial intelligence. Look at this. I'm determining how much the area will be flooded, if the rain increases. I'm now tracking the cars, right? I'm tracking the vehicles. I'm using the sensor information. So my digital twin now is alive, right? I'm doing all of that. And look at this, all the movements, all the sensor information. In this case, I have not just the urban planning model and the buildings for my digital twin. I added the real data, the mobility data, if you want. And then think about linking that. Think about, in that case, with the transportation, for example, that you're looking at that screen of real information, right? And you're driving real decisions from this virtual representation of your city, real information in a virtual representation. And you click the button and you say, I'm going to change the light to red. And the light changes red in the real world. Linking, right? Physical and virtual together for real decisions. Real decisions. All right. So let me then jump to another one, speaking of simulation in this case, right? So you've seen the spaces, right? I showed you the buildings and the trees and the infrastructure, and then we saw the cars moving around, and then the river flooding and so on, and people. So this is another example from 2 OGC members in this case, AWS, Amazon Web Services, and Duality Robotics. And what they've done is here, on top of everything I told you about, this virtual representation of a city, New York, I think in this case, they're adding the people aspect, stimulating hundreds of thousands of people so that you can determine what's going to happen, right, in case of an emergency. All of these videos, by the way, are on YouTube. I'm like literally just playing a YouTube video in front of you here. So super powerful. And remember what I said earlier? You know, we're doing all of this. This is not my kids' video games. This is the real data, right? And why are we doing it? For decisions that are good, right? For us as citizens of this world, of this city, of this place, of this neighborhood, right? So very, very powerful when you can essentially extrapolate reality and build on top of it, so that in a way you're able to see the future. You play the simulations for the future and determine decisions for the present. That's what I'm saying. It's like space and time, and it's like so exciting. All right. So spaces, people, public good. One more example, and this is, don't laugh. This is, in this case, another example from another OGC member, Hexagon. And this is this little person that's sticking out of this little shop. In this case, it's in New York. This is in Hexagon's digital reality environment. So this is a geospatial environment, right? Not a video game. We're using video game technology, right? But this is real stuff. So this is me, right? Stepping in. I was not in New York, by the way. I was just stepping in inside this virtual environment. And what's amazing about this is everything you see on the screen is real. So this fire hydrant is a fire hydrant that has all the characteristics. And I know if it's in front of me, if it's behind me, I know what's underneath me. Everything we say in geospatial just has data attached to it. So how, you know, we talk proximity. I am there, or am I, right? So this is me. That's not my avatar. This is actually me interacting with a totally virtual environment. I think this is super, super powerful, right? And talk about blurring, right? The digital and the real, the physical. Blurring is a good keyword, right? So this is, I like this because this is me, real person, digital environment, versus the previous example was simulated people. If you bear with me, one last example, just to build on this blurring. I love this video from Cesium, another OGC member. We are blurring the lines. We are blurring the lines. In this case, real data about the Earth. So the mountains and the ocean and the clouds and so on, the real models, right? Because geospatial, we've got the data about the Earth from the underneath of the Earth all the way to space. We got that. But in this case, right? Again, imagine strapping something on or just playing a game or whatever, but talk about blurring the lines between the real and the physical. So I can experience this. In this case, I think they're gliding. They want to, you know, train a new generation of pilots, right? And you train, in this case, the gliding, you can train cars in a digital, you know, virtual environment before you go to the real world. Bridging, connecting, converging, right? So limitless opportunities, seriously, which brings me back to this. When I started this, essentially the first thing I thought about was my kids, you know, what we call the digital natives, because they're definitely defying this concept of space and time and, you know, environments that they live in, right? Whether it's physical or it's digital or it's virtual or whatever you want to call it. But as I was putting this presentation together, and I honestly just looked at what our members are doing. So leaders in the geospatial community are doing. And I'm like, the digital natives are not defying our concept of time and space. It's not the new generation that's defying the concept of time and space. We are defying that concept of time and space. You and me, we're defying it in our social lives, obviously here, but most importantly, we're linking, we're bridging, we're converging. You know, we're building on this concept of digital twin and simulation and 4D, fully immersive. I know, you know, there's an episode as well on the metaverse, you know, all of that. We're doing it for something good at the end of the day. We're doing it to track the flooding for disaster preparedness, right? The example for public safety, you know, evacuation routes. We're doing it to better understand what we will do in case of, you know, severe weather events, understanding our planet, you know, climate and beyond, climate migration, you name it. So it's actually, we're defying this concept of time and space so that we can be better prepared for the future and essentially leave the planet in a better place for our kids. And I think with that, I will leave you with my contact information. And as I mentioned, all the videos that I shared are literally on YouTube. So you can, you know, explore how geospatial is actually sort of powering this convergence between physical and digital, and with that, making us all think about what is proximity and, you know, where are you really, and what's the environment around you. Thank you so much.